In today's episode of Inside the Mind,
We're going to talk about something.
a lot of people secretly struggle with feeling boring, but here's the truth. Most of the time, it's not your personality. It's your conversation skills.
This audio recording includes subtitles.
So you can follow along more intentionally and absorb the ideas at your own pace. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling invisible, like your words just floated in the air and disappeared?
You weren't rude, you weren't weird.
But somehow you felt like you didn't matter. Like you were forgettable.
And maybe somewhere deep in your chest, you've wondered,
Am I just boring? Let's pause there. Because that quiet question, it lingers for a lot of people. People like you who care deeply, think deeply, and feel everything, but struggle to translate that into connection. So, before we go any further let's get one thing clear.
You're not boring, you're just unpracticed.
Not in life or thoughts or ideas, but in one specific powerful skill conversation. Now, I know on that word probably feels small. Conversation, really, that's the issue, yes. But hear me out, because what you call boring might just be an underdeveloped ability to hold space to tell stories,
To build bridges with your words.
and that's a skill, not a personality trait, but the lie, isn't it somewhere along the way? You started believing that if people didn't respond to you, you were the problem.
You convinced yourself that being overlooked was proof.
You weren't interesting or likable or charismatic enough. You internalized the silence as shame. So you stopped trying, stopped initiating, stopped contributing, started shrinking.
And slowly,
You faded into the background of your own life. Let's rewind that story. Let's taught you how to connect? Not just talk, but connect. Because most of us weren't taught this. We were told to speak when spoken to not interrupt, to be nice and polite,
but no one showed us how to engage.
how to ask curious questions, how to listen with the intent to understand, not just to reply, how to share ourselves in ways that feel authentic, not performative. We weren't given tool. We were given silence and then made to feel guilty
When we didn't know what to do
So
with
let
it.
me say this again. You're not boring.
You just never got a blueprint.
And that's not your fault.
But now that you're here, it can be your responsibility.
Because conversation isn't magic. It's muscle, you build it. You stretch it. You work it out through practice. Every connection is a representative. Every awkward silence a set. And over time, with the right guidance,
You start to learn that
conversation isn't about dazzling people. It's about being present with them. So if you're feeling stuck,
let's look at a few truths together.
not to judge, not to shame.
Just to understand.
You're
Truth,
probably trying
number
too
one.
hard to sound interesting. Instead of being interested,
Think about it when you're in your head wondering what to say next.
you're not with the other person. You're with your fear. The magic happens when you shift your focus from trying to impress to being curious. Ask deeper questions, reflect what you hear. Let the other person feel seen, because connection isn't built by performing.
It's built by witnessing truth.
Number 2, you might be over-editing yourself. You think something, then instantly
real time.
question it. Is this dumb? Will they care? Is this the right moment? So you say nothing, and the silence grows. But here's the thing. Most people don't remember exactly what you said. They remember how you made them feel.
If your energy says, I trust myself,
They'll trust you too. Let it be imperfect, let it be messy, but let it be real truth number 3. You don't have to be funny or brilliant to be impactful. You just have to be human. Share a story, even a simple one. Talk about something that moved you, made you laugh, made you think. You don't need a big punchline. You need presence and the courage to show a little piece of your world. Here's the core issue, though, and it's the one most people never see.
somewhere along the way,
You attached your worth to your word. So when people didn't respond the way you
took
hoped,
it as a verdict,
a rejection,
a quiet confirmation of your fear.
and that fear began writing your identity. I'm not a people person. I just don't know what to say. I'm too quiet, but none of that is your truth. It's just your defense. A coping mechanism you develop to protect yourself from vulnerability, from missteps, from being misunderstood. But let me ask you
What if
this.
connection is worth that risk?
What if one brave, awkward, authentic moment is all it takes to open a door? Not every conversation will flow. Not every person will get you. But that doesn't mean you don't have value.
It just means you're still learning how to share it.
So what can you do? Here's a path forward. Start with micro practice. Ask one stranger how their day is going. Compliment someone's energy. Text a friend with something not
Random.
perfect, just real.
Be a little braver than your fear wants you to be.
Next, practice storytelling. Pick small moments from your life. Learn to tell them with feeling. Rhythm and heart, not to be entertaining, but to be inviting. Let people in. And finally, build your listening muscles. Most people don't need the perfect response. They need to feel heard, repeat back what they say, validate their emotions. Ask follow-up questions. Make the conversation about us. Not just you, and when it still feels hard, pause. Remind yourself, this doesn't mean I'm boring. It just means I'm still unfolding, still learning, still brave enough to try.
So here's where I leave you.
Not with a solution, but with a reflection. If you've ever felt like you disappear in a room full of people, maybe it's not that you're
Maybe
too
it's that
quiet.
your
voice is still learning to trust itself.
Maybe your stories are waiting.
For your permission to be told. And maybe the people you've been looking for,
the ones who will really see you,
are out there, but they need you to speak up. What would happen if today you stopped waiting to be interesting and started being interested, not in performing, but in connecting? Not in getting it perfect, but in being present.
Would that change the way you see yourself?
Because I think it might. And hey, you're not in this alone. We're all learning how to be heard, how to feel seen, how to connect without losing ourselves. So if this resonated with you, leave a comment, share a story. Let this be a space where your voice belongs. Because it does. You're not boring. You are just beginning.
And there's nothing more interesting
than someone who finally believes that. Subscribe for more reflective truths. Your story matters.